2 weeks.
Well, we're live. Glenn, how you doing?
Good, mate. Good. Yourself?
I'm good, mate. And how has your week been?
Really busy. We've had a really hectic week. So a couple of big corporate sort of gigs, but also had some really good school meetings this week. So we're taking a lot of schools, particularly athletes, sporting programs, rugby league, etc., which is a good step for us.
Okay, so for anybody that doesn't know you, that has missed our podcast in the back, tell us a little bit about Project 180 and some of the other projects that you have on the fly this year.
Yeah, so Project 180 itself is a gym in Brisbane, and effectively we market ourselves on fitness, mindset, and adventure. So mindset's the major piece. We have a business called Adventure Professionals, which is Dakota, Everest Base Camp, Kilimanjaro. So it's literally doing nothing at the moment due to COVID. We got shut down a year ago, so we had pre-sold $2.2 million worth of sales, and we ended up doing 150,000, which is pretty tough in a business. It is what it is. But our major business really these days is the Building Better Humans project, which started out as a podcast, but it now oversits everything else, because Building Better Humans project, we do all of our coaching, and then out of that we're running teenage camps these days for boys and girls. We're running personal and professional development for adults, obviously, and then the fitness Project 180 side, and then the adventure professional side are just pieces of that. So yeah, the Building Better Humans project is our major thing these days.
I love that, and I love how you guys use, fitness and people's life goals, because even if you want to be like an NRL football player or a champion in something, you're not going to do that if there's no balance to your life a lot of the time. Like you have to get your shit in one sock, so to speak, and square everything away, which if we could teach those lessons to everybody, then hopefully you're touching more people through adventure and fitness that maybe don't want a six-pack of abs but want to square their stuff away and feel better. So I love that stuff that you guys are up to. So how's the beginning of the year been for you? Are you guys busy? Do you have lots of people coming in with New Year's resolutions or trying to reset? What's it been like for you?
Mate, we've been hectic anyway. Like that aside, we're just starting a program tomorrow called Kickstart, which is a fitness and mindset program. So when I do my fitness programs, interesting, I don't do DEXA scans and body weight and all that sort of stuff, because I don't think, this is my opinion and I'm happy to be wrong, but I don't think that people don't know what to eat. As in, we know when we're eating too many meat pies and too many bags of potato chips. I don't think that's the major part of the problem, the nutrition side. I think it's what's going on up here. So what I'm doing instead is a 28 and a 56-day challenge. And like most people in gyms, we kind of cringe at that stuff, but I understand people need a short time frame to get started, just to sign people up and go, I just have to do this for 28 days. And hopefully in that 28 days, we can prove to them why it's important, why it's, I'm starting to feel better. It's not an overnight process. I'm 28 days deep, or I'm 56 days there. You're not going to change it in a week or two. So what I do is I do a video goal setting session at the start of every week, which goes into a private group for them. And then I do an actual live Zoom feed for mindset, where we talk, myself and some of my team members talk 20 minutes around mindset, and then we just answer questions. We've gone for the first time online with it, not in the fancy online version like a lot of people do. We're just fairly basic, but I've got a girl from France doing the program with me, her and her husband. He's a footy player, a good mate of mine. They went over to France. He's playing. They're on lockdown, 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. Their games are getting cancelled all the time if someone gets found with COVID. So there's a lot going on. And so just for her mindset, just to do this program is good. I've got a guy in Perth. I've got a girl in Sydney. But then I've got a heap of members here doing it as well. So, but even just generally, our general gym membership is going really well. But, we had challenges like everyone else last year. I had to let a staff member go at the end of last year who wasn't performing. And that's really tough for me, because I'm very loyal and I'll hang in with you for months and I'll try and coach you. And we just weren't getting there. We were losing clients. Clients know when trainers aren't interested. Like, how can you get people motivated if the trainer themselves not interested? Like, great with their own health and fitness, but just weren't interested in helping someone get across the line. So I agonized over that decision. And in the end, it just had to be made. So that was a tough way to sort of finish the year. And then I let another staff member go recently, slightly more amicable, but they just wanted more hours, but they weren't really at the level we needed them at. But now everything's flowing really well. You've seen some of our team. I've got young Jay Nicarima, who's a former NRL player. He's injured at the moment. He was just doing a pre-season with the Warriors. He's got a great following. He's a great person. People like him. I've got young Taylor Robinson, who's a Commonwealth Games boxer, Commonwealth Games bronze medalist at the age of 18. She's 22 now. She's had 70 fights, 5 Australian titles. She's turned pro, and she's a really good mentor. She's mentoring some young autistic children at the moment, 13, 14-year-olds, and teaching them one-on-one boxing. And I've got a young bloke, Azar, who's a young Islander kid who's just a great kid. Everyone loves. So if you've got the right people, then you can help people. And they help us bring people in because it's not just about the fitness. It's about, as you would know, the community, whether people feel good in the environment. They train, that's hard. They know it's hard. But they come back because the community's got the right vibe. The gym's got the right vibe. We've got the right people in there.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to be in the health and fitness space or the sports space, you really should love what you do. But let's backtrack a little bit because I love that mindset stuff. So, I taught people to lose weight and fitness for years now. So I've probably been in the fitness industry at least 15 or 16 years now. And, the military, obviously, we all played around with it then. But the one difference I always see between people who succeed or don't succeed, it's like, how can you make lifestyle changes to be healthier when you keep still telling yourself you hate exercise or you hate healthy food or, and just some of the bullshit that people tell themselves, like, you could give someone a 2,000 calorie a day diet, they're barely training, and they're like, I can't stop eating because I get so tired while I'm doing shift work. And it's like, eating that chocolate bar while you're on shift isn't going to stop your tiredness. It's not the tiredness going away. You're tired because you're doing shift work. You got to change the way that you think about those things, especially when, you're going over and over again and don't understand why these things are happening, why you can't stick to a plan, why it's not working for you, it is up there, and the world isn't going to change for you. The science isn't going to change for you. But if you change, you are literally capable of doing anything that you set your mind to. Anything,
100%.
Which is crazy because, you and Alyssa have done amazing things. She's been up Mount Everest a couple of times. And I really think that the whole idea of finding something tough to do to help fix your mindset around those other little things is extremely powerful.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I'm studying psychology at the moment, as you know, and it's not to be a psychologist, although it's a full psychology degree. It's just that I'm a lifelong learner. It's just about being interested in how the human brain sort of works. I was reading something recently, and I love it because all the stuff we read are scientific-based studies, or they're professors giving examples. But anyway, the thing I was reading is that most people don't consider themselves a risk taker. So, as in, I'm scared of heights. I'm not going to bungee jump. I'm not going to abseil, whatever. There's that fear, and yet most of us take risks all the time, but it's long term. So there's constant long term eating crap, not moving our bodies, drinking or consumption of too much, being unhealthy. And I'm a registered nurse by trade, and 20, 30 years down the track, you're in a hospital and you're sick and you've got all these illnesses. You are a risk taker. You're just doing it really slowly over a long period of time because it's a shorter, easier option to fill that little need in the brain for comfort, for whatever that thing is. That's kind of where I find it really interesting if we can convince people to change their mind to say this short-term discomfort is actually going to help me to grow. So I learnt through psychology this thing called eustress. Eustress is spelled EUSTRESS. So eustress is a positive form of stress. So we have distress, which is when we are stressed out about something we can't control, which is poor health, poor financial. When COVID hit, people are under distress. But eustress is where we go out and seek to do things that make us uncomfortable. And eustress can be physical, exercise makes you uncomfortable. but it's a result you're after is a positive thing. Chemical, as in, you give people drugs for chemotherapy, it's really devastating and it makes them sick and they lose their hair, but it kills cancer. So it's chemically, it's got a better, there's a psychology under use stress, which is reading stuff, putting yourself through a uni degree, which is a pain in the backside. It's long hours. It's why am I putting myself under this stress? There's a new assignment due. But at the end of it, you've got a new knowledge. So if people could start to learn I'd never heard the word before, eustress. It's really well known in psychology. If people could start to embrace eustress, EUSTRESS, then they would start to realize that we're going to get challenged in life. So the idea, to dumb it down for us, is you can either choose things that challenge you on a daily basis that make you better, or you'll be challenged on a daily basis for things that cause you distress. So basically choose your pain. Do you want it to be good or do you want it to be bad? So I love that. I think that whole concept is really interesting to know that, life's not easy. Life is a challenge at times, but if you want to be better built and better equipped to handle it, then put yourself under eustress as often as you can and look for positive outcomes, even though it's hard. Like, how often have you and I gone to a training session where you don't feel great, particularly when you're training for fights back in the day, and you think, but I know I've got to do the work. I know I've got to do the work, and if I do the work, then the session might suck at the time, but it helps when you get in the ring or in the cage or wherever you're fighting or wherever you're playing your sport. So there.
Yeah, 100%. That just goes back to the same idea of like you choosing to eat unhealthy now, just to put it off later. Well, you can actually choose your type of stress, especially when something happens to you. You get to decide at that point in time whether you want to be the hero of the situation or the victim.
Yeah.
I can either be a victim now, or I can choose a different type of stress, and I can be the hero of this situation. And it does often just take a couple of deep breaths. And whenever I can't do that, I'm always seeking out coaches to help me do that anyway, whether they be a business coach, financial coach, jiu-jitsu coach, boxing coach, kickboxing coach, another gym owner, even sometimes your parents, whoever it is. But, if you can't make that decision of how to choose the right stress, helping people or asking people for help is a good way to go about it.
So it's an interesting concept around, I saw Joshua's question, and I'll maybe try and come back to that, but I saw this interesting concept around that in life we play four main roles typically, and sometimes we play these on a daily basis. And the four main roles are victim, the villain. We've all been both of those at some point in time. The hero, which is not about being a hero, but your hero in your own story. I'm going to start to take action. And then the guide, which is where we start to guide other people, mentor or coach other people and help other people through our experiences. Some people get stuck in a role, and that role often is victim or the villain. And the victim in the sense that, this always happens to me, the villain in the sense that because I've been the victim, I'm going to start to go and hurt other people. So you see that side of things. But we play this role sometimes on a daily basis. Someone cuts off traffic and you blow up and you're beeping your horn and you're flipping on the bird. Well, I'm the victim for that little moment. Whereas these days, I'm really much calmer from the young guy that used to have road rage, where I could just go, mate, if you want to get to that stoplight 3 seconds quicker than me, go for it, particularly in Brisbane here. So, it's interesting. I like the fact that you can play all those roles. Getting from hero to guide is one of the hardest ones. When you start to, and you and I as coaches, and it doesn't matter if you coach sport, business, whatever, we realize that when you start helping other people, you become infinitely better yourself, because you start to learn to solve a variety of different problems. Whereas when we only focus on ourselves, we're only trying to solve this problem, the problems that this bloke has. You think about how many, even with the martial arts, my old boxing trainer years ago said, when you start training young kids, for example, how to fight, you learn a lot more and you become a better fighter yourself, because you have to learn different ways of teaching and different ways of moving. And you've got an orthodox and a southpaw, and you've got kids that pick it up quicker. And it's true, when you start guiding other people, that makes a massive difference. To answer Josh's question, I saw pop up there around giving yourself permission to succeed. That's a really interesting one, and you have to go really deep on a psychological level around that sort of stuff. But on a base level, it's about first trying to understand why have you not given yourself that permission in the first place. What's the challenge for you, because we get stuck in one of those roles. So in the victim role, as an example, and I'm not suggesting we all sit and go, oh, my life's really hard. The victim role can be, you've had poor monetary experiences. You grew up poor, like I certainly grew up poor. So then it's almost like you self-sabotage subconsciously without realizing it. Or, so that's a victim. You're playing the victim card without saying you're the victim. It's kind of like, easy come, easy go. I make the money, then it's gone again, and you never quite get ahead. I see people do it in business all the time. I see people do it with fitness. I had a guy last year that lost all of this weight. He came to a fight camp with me, just a corporate guy, great business, everything going well. And then he disappeared for 6 months, and he came back, not particularly overweight, but definitely not healthy, mentally in a terrible shape. Business is still great, but there's all these other things going on in his life. And it's because he decided, that was a hard camp, loved it. I'll take a week or two off, became a month, became 2 months, became 3 months. And now I'm back to where I started or worse. And so I think giving yourself permission to succeed, from my point of view, is understanding why you're not giving yourself that permission first. I understand what it is that you want is the second thing. And then I do this future paced exercise with people, whether it's health and fitness, whether it's mindset. It's, if you keep carrying out the current behaviors that you're carrying out, the people you're interacting with, everything stays the same. Future pace yourself to, where am I in 5 years? What do I feel like? And I know if I keep eating crap, if I'm not exercising, if I'm not putting in money away, if I'm not putting in the hours to grow and market my business, whatever the thing is, it doesn't matter. In 5 years' time, this is where I'm likely to be. Do you like that? Do you like that 5 year? And be brutal with it. And if you don't, go, okay, what would I like that to look like? And then reverse engineer, well, what would I have to do? What steps do I have to take? And like you said, I hire coaches too. And I've got a coach at the moment who I've paid a significant amount of money to mentor the gym side of my business, even though that's what I do for a living, mentoring people. And he's been really good. He sat down with Jade and I yesterday and said, right, you've got all these staff members, there's all these hours in the gym where they're not training people. You need to be doing something every single day that is helping your current members and growing your membership base. By tomorrow, when we have our next catch up, I want a list of things that you could be doing. And we thought, okay, and we started slow, and within half an hour, we had 10 really good ideas on the board that all the other trainers come in and went, oh, that's awesome. Because we had someone that prompted that question from us. We hadn't asked ourselves the right question. That's all. And sometimes we need, and again, for you, Josh, giving yourself permission to succeed might be finding a coach or a mentor to ask you the right questions, who doesn't go easy on you, who says, mate, why aren't you doing the work? Maybe you don't want what you say you want. And that can challenge you enough to go, yes, I do. And all right, I'm not doing the work. Let's be honest with myself. And maybe you do it.
And often when people are self-sabotaging, the first couple of things they say, well, it's because, my boss won't give me the time off, this, that, and they're handing over that responsibility to another person. My wife wouldn't like it if I did this, blah, 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 in the house with our food, or whatever it is. And then they're offloading responsibility of their goals and self-sabotaging to somebody else. It's like, I'm not happy because I have to stay in my job because of X loyalty to this person, that person. It's like, if people around you love you, then they'll accept that you need change to happen, even if it is at a loss to them. They'll accept that for what it is. Because if your soul's telling you to do something else, there's going to be a couple of pain points before it gets good. Often things get worse before they get better. They just do. And you could use weight loss as an analogy.
It's an easy example, right? Yeah.
For anything in life, because it is something that people struggle with. But it's like, you are going to be tired when you're in a calorie deficit, but you've got a fat battery on your body. You're not going to die. You'll be okay. But it is going to get worse before it gets better. It is, and it's not going to feel comfortable the whole time. There's no magic system to have you losing weight in a calorie deficit feeling fantastic the whole time. It just doesn't exist. It's a unicorn that you're chasing that isn't going to help. Same as, like, you want to be a champion or you want to win at anything, then get ready for losing first. You got to learn to lose correctly first and make all the lessons and all the mistakes. You got to put yourself out there, and it's going to feel at times terrible, like you're no good at it. But if you stick at it and you are the last person left, You know, like it might take you 10 years to be a champion in the sport that you want to be a champion in. But like, don't expect it to happen in a year. People that do that are outliers.
Yeah, my success principle, I've got my own versions, I guess, but one of the things I teach is around actually the top two. I'll tell you the top two because you touched on both. One is accountability. Everything that happens around me is my responsibility, how I deal with it. And responsibility is my ability to respond for a positive outcome, because no matter what happens to you, you will respond to it. But are you getting a positive outcome? If we think below the line, that blame, deny, excuses. It's blame it on someone else because now, hey, it's not, I couldn't do anything about it. Deny that it's even happening, or if there's no way of blaming someone else or deny it, have excuses as to why it happened. So accountability is number one. And then number two, for me, I say to people, is be persistent and consistent. Just keep turning up and keep showing up and doing what needs to be done, even when it doesn't feel great. And you will outlast the majority of the population because they just won't do the work at the end of the day. They'll talk about it, they'll think about it. It'll be a great idea for a week or two, then they'll fall off. That'll happen in competition. You see it happen in fights. You can just tell who's done the work. Like I know, and you know, training fighters, you get some guys that get on weight. I had a young guy who used to train years ago, and he was national level. Like he was a good boxer, and he'd always be on weight because he dropped the weight quite easily, but he wouldn't always be fit. And by that, I would mean the week of the fight, once I remember he's eating KFC. And I said, mate, what are you doing? He goes, oh, but my weight's good. And I'm going, yeah, but think about how you're fueling your body. You're about to fight for 10 rounds and you're fueling your body with a chicken burger and chips just because you're on weight. And we're 3 days out from the fight. And his brain wasn't thinking, as long as he was on weight, that was fitness. He gets around 6, 7, and 8. And, those potato chips soon start to come back. But I've never heard of the fat battery before. I love that.
Yeah, and people who are good at sport, naturally athletic, and all these other things. Like people look at him and go, "Oh, that guy's got no problems. He just picks this up easy." But most of those people actually do have a different set of problems. We've all got our sets of problems that will serve us long term, and especially, I mean, fight sports is an interesting one because the top percentile make money. So if you're not doing it for the love of it or for the constant improvement of it, like the money comes later because you did all the winning and all the hardship and things before that. People who want to give up their jobs to become champions don't realize that amateur champions had part-time jobs before they were amateur champions, and before they were pro champions. They made a sacrifice in their particular job to make sure that they could train the hours necessary to do the things necessary to become that champion. They weren't gifted these things and opportunities either. If their coach said rock up on Saturday at 6 a.m. in the morning, they didn't say, "Oh, coach, I don't like getting up early on the weekends."
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's definitely.
And you're right. There's not many people make money in the fight sports per se, but getting punched in the face hurts at every level, at world champion level, right down to the amateurs. Like you still take damage. It still hurts. And I know pro fighters who've won Australian titles. 10 rounders. I used to train one who worked full time and was fighting as a pro.
Of course they did.
He just wasn't a big enough name to be making the $2 million that an Anthony Mundine would get or a Jeff Horn was getting at the time.
Yeah. It's the wrong goal. Like if you want money, start a business. Don't. Yeah. If you want to be champion of the world, you may possibly get money as a result of that. And that again, another good lesson. Like you can make money as a result of just being good and loving what you do as well, because you do things well. But that's probably a whole nother podcast.
Well, you look at Wayne Parr's example. He's had a long career and probably hasn't been paid what he's worth, to be honest. But people look at his long career and what he's achieved, but they forget the 5-6 years as a teenager living on cement floors in Thailand and, pissing and shitting in a bucket right beside where he slept. And they didn't see the hard stuff, and most of them wouldn't be willing to do the hard stuff.
Yeah. And he's done amazing too to have his body still be able to go on well into his 40s and still fighting at a very, very high level. Like again, he should be an inspiration to a lot of people. He's definitely a legend in the sport.
He needs to be in a museum. That's where he needs to be. Like he's a freak. He's a freak specimen to be doing what he's doing at the level he's done it for the amount of years that he's done it. I had him on my podcast a couple of years ago, and I think he was 40 at the time, and I said, you think about retirement? He was like, "Are you kidding me?" And then 4 years later, he's still cracking along, and I went and watched him do one of the first caged Muay Thai events, and like he's a big hitter even with normal gloves on, but he's a freak of a human. And he's a nice bloke. On my experience, I've dealt with him a couple of times. He's such a nice bloke, So it's but not in the ring or in the cage. He's just someone that wants to kill people. He loves hurting people.
Yeah. It's definitely he's fun to watch. And we're lucky in Australia. We've had a history of great boxers, a history of great kickboxers, and now, if you were to list all the mixed martial arts champions, now we have some mixed martial arts champions in the mix too. So it's exciting world to be in right now, martial arts and fitness. And I think the future of the fitness industry is small boutique gyms that have specialities to create some kind of like tribal community feeling as well. And I also think that if people aren't thinking about mindset and they're not thinking about making their students' lives better at all, they're probably missing out on like 90% of the gifts of what you get out of fight sports, adventure, and fitness. There's nothing worse to me than someone telling me that they want to lose 5 kilos for a wedding only to put it back on after the wedding. Like if you're not interested in talking lifestyle, I'm not really interested in helping you either. I'm kind of niched down into that now. If people are either all in or all out.
I'm hoping the future. I've been in the gym industry for a long time, so I'm hoping the future of gyms is small boutique, is Jerry Maguire. More personal attention. I hope that's the way it's going to go, rather than every system that goes okay and they franchise it, and it's just people jumping up and down and dancing. And look, whatever works for people, don't get me wrong. If you can turn up and do that stuff consistently, that big box stuff, go for it. But I'm like you. I like the pride. I had a guy messaging the other day, and he said to me, "Mate, do you ever question what you're doing?" And he makes a lot more money than I do. And I said, "No, not at all." I said, "But I get to see legitimate change in people almost immediately, whether it's from a talk that we give, whether it's a weekend program with some teenagers, or whether it's watching." We've got a big bloke in here now, Jaden's uncle Rob. He's dropped, I can't remember, like 24 kilos, in sort of 6 months. He's a big guy anyway, but then he's played a bit of NRL in the past, and he looks like at 40 he could run back on the paddock. He's in fantastic condition. And then I've watched his wife come in and start training with him. Now all of his kids come in and train from 10 years old to 17. The whole family comes in at 5:15 in the morning. How can you get sick of that when you see those sort of experiences? You're not just in my gym, and I'm sure yours is the same. You're not just swiping a card and no one speaks to you while you go and sit in the squat racks and do some bicycle curls, or it's not that. It's a different model these days, and we get to have. I just can't get tired of seeing that human connection we have with people. And again, my mate's making more money. So if you were talking about success, he's in the construction game. Yep, that's success. But if you're not happy, you need to solve that problem. And we did a coaching session this morning. Say, all right, mate, we need to solve that problem for you, because it's not the business and it's not your relationship, and there's something that's unfulfilled, and we need to look at that, because I don't have the money in the bank that he would have, but I have happiness, I have fulfillment, and I don't get sick of what I do. And I get that I'm lucky. That's not for everyone, because I enjoyed the military and I've enjoyed my time out of the military. That's not for everyone. But one of the things, I just spoke to 120 accountants 2 days ago. That's a tough gig, because they don't give you a lot of feedback. They love the talk, but they don't give you a lot of, they're quite reserved. So I just said to them, you don't have to love accounting the way I love what I do. But you be passionate about what you're doing for other reasons. The lifestyle it provides to you, the finances it gives you to be able to do things with your family, the freedom. There's other reasons. Not everyone's going to love every minute of their day, but if you're doing something for 40 to 60 hours a week, you at the very minimum don't want to hate it, because that doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, yeah, exactly. And the best accountants I've met are the ones that are solving problems for you. They're creative enough to be like, hey, let me help you with this to solve this this
How
this
important are they to
problem
us as
for
small
you.
business owners?
Yeah, 100%. And like that gives them allows them to have a purpose, to realize that I'm not just here to save you money. I'm here to solve problems for you. The same as using martial arts and fitness as a vehicle to help people. Like it's a vehicle, but it's not doing all the things. It's the routine, the discipline, the change in your mindset that will make your life better. Because I'm hoping that change in your mindset, you're then going to apply to other things.
Yeah.
Not just the science of how to lose weight or the how to slip a punch, but it's actually like the problem solving process that you have during that experience is hopefully what's going to make your life a little bit better and a little bit easier, because they are universal lessons.
Mate, that's a massive, like, that's something you said that's then is massive, is that every little challenge you overcome in one area gives you the ability to overcome challenges in other areas. So it's not just about being fitter and healthier. You might achieve a goal in your fitness journey, or I don't know, maybe they go on and have a corporate or amateur fight, one off. They're not becoming a fighter per se, but then all of a sudden they get better at business or at work or in their relationship, because they think, hey, if I can do that, what else could I do that I didn't think I could? And I like that concept. We challenge people. We took all these young kids, a lot of them were city kids. We took them out west and we climbed a mountain. And these kids loved it. Like, they're talking about this. It was probably you and I would go and do it in 3 hours, 3.5. These young kids did it in probably 6 hours. When we get back down, they're going, I didn't think I could make it, because we're doing sort of videos with them. And what was your favourite part of the camp? Well, it was the mountain. And they make it sound like Mount Everest, which I've got a history with Alyssa. But it was like, I've never climbed a mountain before, and I'm out there and I climbed it and I didn't think I'd make it. And eventually I got to the top. The feeling for them in that moment was no different, I'm sure, than Alyssa climbing Mount Everest. It's just that the context or the varieties in the distance and the height and the training and the whatnot. But for them, it was brand new. Now they'll go out hopefully in life and go, I wonder what else I can achieve. I wonder what else is really tough, but if I just keep going and just keep putting left foot in front of right foot, I could achieve it, because that's what they took out of it, which was pretty amazing.
Yeah, and I challenge my own kids like that all the time. I'll take them for walks and I tell them, hey, yeah, it's tough, but whinging isn't going to help you.
Yeah.
Especially if you guys want to be leaders. I teach the girls, it's like, see that whinging that you're doing now? It's bringing everybody else down around you, and it's making it not only harder for you, but harder for everybody else around you. If you want to become a leader of people, or you want people to look up to you, then now's the time to start making better decisions with your attitude. And then I leave them to walk by themselves for the next couple of hours, so I can't hear it. But like, you have to give them those moments and those little chats. I'm not going to sit there and appease you. I'm not going to make the walk easier for you. I'm just going to tell you, hey, maybe you're thinking about this wrong. You're not going to make the walk any easier by whining about it. We've got water. We're all right. You're all right. I'm all right. Let's keep going. It'll be worth it in the end.
There are classic examples of that above and below the line thinking, where you'll see someone get something like a cancer and handle it really poorly, and someone get a cancer and handle it really well. Now, even if the chances are they're both going to die, I guess the people who handle it well are going to have some better quality of life towards that end time frame. You see it all the time. Like, obviously being a nurse, I don't practice anymore, but when you're going into hospitals, you just see these people who are upbeat and are positive, and you think, man, they're dying, and the way they're handling it. You see other people that have similar or maybe not even as bad issues, and they'll be really negative. That's a trained behaviour that we've trained over time. So those messages to the girls, they may not know it now, but at 19, 20, at 25, they'll look back and go, I was actually given some tools back then, so I handle things differently. I know with the programs we're working with teenagers, we call it an upstream program, because I do a lot of coaching of 35 to 45, 50, 55-year-olds who kind of get to the stage of life who go, I'm just stuck. They're unhealthy physically, they're unhealthy mentally, they're stuck in jobs they hate, relationships they hate, whatever. There's all this stuff going on. They're not where they thought they were going to be in life, but there was no great purpose through those 20s or whatever to be anywhere else. So we're trying to fix that problem. And then I started talking, or mentally thinking about, and then talking to my team about, what do we start working with young people to try and give them the same tools, the very tools that you're giving your kids, so that we call it an upstream program. Go upstream, find out why they're falling in. So at 30 and 35, they go, actually, I'm in a pretty good spot because I've lived a little bit more consciously. I know how to problem solve. I haven't been, having everything done for me, and then when I get smacked in the guts, I don't know how to handle it. That's the idea behind that stuff. Is we just want to build our young people to be as resilient as possible. And for those of us in our 30s, 40s, and I'm turning 50 in less than 18 months, which I'm actually quite looking forward to, because I'm thinking, can I keep doing what I'm doing, and how long for? And I feel really good for where I'm at, and my body's busted and all that sort of stuff. Like, you get it, you're at that age, but I've always had a really good mindset around it. So what if we can help give that mindset to other people? And if you haven't got it right now and you're at my age, it's not too late to change things. It's just, you've got to be around better people at the end of the day. You've got to be around people that are positive.
100%. And we must have missed a couple of generations somewhere along the line, because I mean, life is so good now when we're so safe. We've kind of lost purpose. I mean, it's the most terrible statistic is that, like between 18 and 44, the most dangerous person to you at the moment is you. So there's a whole heap of people walking around right now that need these lessons, and their kids need these lessons, and other people need these lessons, because it's the only solution to some of these big problems that we have with physical and mental health at the moment, is just to really kind of like talk to people, like not yell at them, but talk to them and say, hey, you're not a victim here. It's okay. We can think through everything. And no matter what's happening, life can get better if you work for it.
It's funny you talk about that skipping a generation, because I've just taken all up. We've done 3 camps. We've had 76 kids come through the camps. They all do medical forms at the start. A lot of kids don't really want to come, but mums, dads force them. The good feedback is they want to come back. But anyway, I go through their medical forms. So these are just our local statistics with 76 kids. It's not worldwide statistics, but 68% of those medical forms have anxiety written on their medicals. So, we haven't got resilience in this current day and age. You go back 100, 120 years, I read a book years ago called A Fortunate Life by Albert Facey, and he was a guy that lived through the First World War, kind of grew up through the Depression and went into the Second World War himself. He was at 13 or 14 years of age. He's living out on a property in West Australia away from his parents, earning a living, working on a farm, and part of that money would go back to his parents. It looked like a really tough life, but he viewed it as a fortunate life. And they just had this resilience and ability that we've just lost in current society, because I think we've lost context for how comfortable we truly are, and we think life's challenging, and it's really not by comparison. So it's interesting that nearly 70% of the kids we've had come through have got anxiety, already. And I'm talking 11 to 17-year-olds.
Yeah. It is definitely super interesting to me to listen to people who, want to sit with kids inside their emotions and talk about it, which kind of, I feel like sometimes you're like talking that kid into being more and more upset, instead of telling them take 3 deep breaths and like, what's the problem now? Are you upset for you lost? No worries. Let's go out and let's try and win again, and let's think through that. It's right now, like crying's not gonna help. And I think people think that you're cold or something for that, but I think kids need to be pushed a little bit and told that it's okay. It's okay to lose. It's okay to cry. But now let's move on and let's go. Like I don't know. I know there's going to be some psychologists and people out there getting real mad at me, but I really feel that pushing people through those emotions and talking through them, not yelling through them, not yelling at them. Like, we don't yell at them and tell them not to cry, but 3 deep breaths. Let's problem solve. What's the problem? Yep, not a problem. Let's move on now.
Mate, crying and being upset, and you put in all the work and you didn't get the result, all that's normal, and it's a part of the process. I think the problem is when you get stuck in it as the whole process. Well, it doesn't. You're right. It doesn't solve anything. Yeah, you can feel disappointed. You can beat yourself up. Give yourself half a day, an hour, a day, whatever. But don't make it 3 days. Don't make it a week. Don't make it. You look at. I know people go, he's got plenty of money, so it doesn't matter. But I look at the way Conor McGregor handled this loss, even the loss to Nate Diaz. you know, he always handled it positively. I guarantee he goes back to work, and whether he ever recaptures what he did back in the day, it doesn't matter. But he's not, you know, blaming judges and lying around complaining about stuff. It's just like, yeah, cool, happened. Need to get more time in there and need to get back on it. And I think we could learn from that. And I've had that conversation with people. They go, oh, yeah, but he's got $100 million. I'd be happy too. Well, if that was true, he wouldn't even fight. He obviously still wants to fight. If, you know, if it's money's not the issue. So that money doesn't give you happiness. People who don't have it think it does, but it doesn't, because how many people have got plenty of money that aren't happy, right?
Yeah, he's definitely an onion, that dude, and I think he's obviously a high performer, a high thinker, but you know, like he wants so much, but he's human like everyone else and makes a lot of mistakes. So I think that's a really good lesson for everyone as well. You know, like you don't want to be, you know, like even your heroes, all your heroes are fallible and human as well. We might finish up there today, but we have one more question. I'm going to have a go at it, and then I'll give you a go at it. So Mitchell's asked what thoughts and sacrifices you need to be to competition. And Mitchell, all of the sacrifices, whatever you need to do, you know, like, because it really depends on the person. It depends on what your coaches are asking for you and what sessions you have to turn up for them as well. But you have to be prepared to make all the sacrifices, and it could be anywhere between 2 and 3 hours of work a day. It could be 2. It really depends. But I would say all of the sacrifices that are deemed necessary. But anybody can do it. Like Glenn said before, you know, most people work jobs. I think Paul Briggs, when he was a world champion, was a bricklayer, and he laid bricks for 12 hours a day and got up at 5 a.m. and ran 15 kilometers every morning, and then trained for 2 hours at night. So it's going to be different for every person, but all the sacrifices.
Yeah, and I agree. At the end of the day, if you don't train on the days that you feel tired, what happens on fight night? What happens on, you know, you do weigh in and you turn up at the fights, you go, actually, I didn't sleep that well, so I'm not going to fight now. Like, you still get in and you compete. And I love that old saying, and I believe it was Rich Franklin, but I could be wrong. Anyway, it was someone from a few years back, and it just said that in the ring or in the cage, the truth will always find you. And what he meant was that you can look fit and you can talk yourself into, I've done the work, and your coach can be happy you've done most of the work. But if you know you subparred some things, you didn't quite look after your nutrition, you didn't quite look after your recovery, you're kind of just half doing something, in the ring, when the fight gets tough, as fights sometimes do, yeah, you might have a good fight, but what if it's a tough fight? What if you end up in a dog fight? Subconsciously, your brain goes, that's where the truth finds you. It goes, yeah, you took a few shortcuts, mate. I'm starting to get tired now. Maybe the other bloke didn't take the shortcuts. And in the ring or in the cage, the truth will always find you.
Yeah, and you know what? And you can do everything right and still lose on the night too, and not have a bad performance and get taught some lessons as well. So you got to be, you got to be ready to lose, but you also got to take your time, because it may take. I started to feel good, I reckon, about the 10 years of learning boxing and kickboxing. I was like, I should have been doing this ages ago. So and I find most of my guys too, like some of them can get good within 12 months, like good enough to fight, but their fight IQ and everything else starts to really come in those later years, like years of training, not 1 year of training. So you got to be willing to play the long game as well.
You can't cheat the process.
Can't cheat the process. Doesn't matter what you want, you can't cheat the process. We've all tried. I've tried to cheat processes. I can't. You can't. It's just it is what it is. I really appreciate your time today, Glenn. It's always a really easy, useful chat. If anybody wants to train with Glenn and see what they're up to down at Project 180, they're in Brisbane. Look him up. He's got lots of stuff going on, lots of adventures, lots of fitness. So he's going to be a good guy to help you out around that neck of the woods. Have you got anything else you would like to add, Glenn?
No, mate, I'm all good. Easy to track down if anyone's looking for me. Just Glenn Azar on Facebook, or the Building Better Humans Project. Always up for a chat.
Thanks, Glenn. I appreciate it, brother.